Hello and welcome again. I'm going to talk to you about the synthesis essay. Please note that you do have to attach all peer-reviewed journal articles, and you can only reuse one that you found in the class, and it has to be related to your field of study. So I saw some places where students didn't do that on the preliminary research. So if you did not use a peer-reviewed journal from your field of study for that one, then you obviously won't be able to use that peer-reviewed journal. You have to find one new one new journal article for this one, and you need a minimum of two. So you'll have two peer-reviewed journal articles. One may or may not be from a previous assignment, and you will perform synthesis. So let's talk about that a minute. First of all, let's look at the due dates. So if you look at all of this, you have a couple due dates. The upload of your rough draft, which is your full draft. During the synthesis peer review, if you haven't uploaded your full draft of this with the word count and according to the directions, you will not get full credit and will have the 10% taken off of the final one. That is just in alignment with what we would do in class if you were in a classroom setting, and it's also so we do it online. So here's the final due date on that one, 10/28. So there's a few days of turnaround. Please do not choose a paper and then not do the peer review. If you're going to choose a paper and tell someone you're going to do it, please do it. A few students on the last paper were left without a peer review done when they thought it was going to be peer reviewed. So please don't do that to your fellow classmates. You will have to do 2 to 4 peer review journal articles for this. So you can go up to 4, but keep in mind it's a little bit harder to do that. It's easier to form connections between 2 articles than it is 4. So this is that example, and I already posted a video for that. There's a link down below. We're going to talk about the writing prompt next. I probably should have rethought how I organized those, but when I re-uploaded a new updated version of the writing prompt, it ended up being the last one on there. So this does tell you that think of synthesis as a research paper. You have to have 2 to 4 sources to support your thesis. And you want to look back at the preliminary research assignment to see how some of the thesis statements are organized. Now this one might be a little different unless you're using an argumentative slant. This one you're allowed to do only you're either doing explanatory or argument. So you can do explanatory on this one. It's up to you, which means you're explaining something. Hopefully you knew that. But so you have 2 choices to go explanatory or argumentative. And if you go argumentative, you need to look back at that preliminary RWJ and look at the very last one, number 4, where it has the template for your thesis statement. You will need to use that template for this. Now remember, synthesis relies heavily on research. This is a lot less of you and more of the author. This is how you do support for your points. So one of the reasons this essay is in here is because if you know how to insert research to support your points, you can write excellent research essays. So it's one of the reasons that most instructors include this, because what you're doing is you're taking 2 different sources that have some of the same topics that they touch on, and you're talking about those commonalities and those differences between the way those authors are seeing things. And you do have to have both, so you want to look at both of those. One of the articles, again, that's right here, that you use for your summary or critique essay, or even if you had a unique one that you chose for the RWJ preliminary research, you can use it too. But you can only choose one that you previously used, so I don't want you to accidentally not, to mess that up and get many points taken off. So the length of this one is 1,000 to 1,200 words. There is a penalty for going over and under. That requires you to be very precise. So my suggestion to make sure you don't go over is to use the 2 primary sources instead of 4. And those are our peer-reviewed journal articles, so please note that. When you go down here, all this is saying is that you must upload those peer-reviewed journal articles. I will not allow late uploads for those. You've had to do it for critique and summary, and by now you should know the rhythm of things in the class, and so I'm just not going to make exceptions. It's not fair to other students who are doing their work, doing it on time and following all of the directions, so please don't ask. I hope you can understand that. So other guidelines, There is a synthesis chapter in your book. Now, I'm not going to go over that in this video because you can locate that. There's also synthesis essays in your book. So now they do have some good information in those. So you can look those up at your leisure if you'd like to see those. But really, the example I gave you has enough synthesis in there where you can see how it's done. And that's why I chose that one, because the synthesis section does touch on both articles. It shows you kind of how to set that up. And I gave you corrections inside there to fix any problems that that student had on that paper. Now, your directions are slightly different from hers, so please make sure you're following your rubric. And I do still suggest that you use those headings in the example to keep you organized and so that I can find it, because if I have to search for it and I can't find it, I can't grade it. So please keep that in mind. And you'll know that all sections are in the order that they're mentioned in the rubric, and we're going to look at that in just a minute. Here's some tips. Do not choose only one article. You can't synthesize unless you have two. You just physically can't. You can't do it. Do not use personal opinions. If you're very passionate about a topic, it may serve you to stay away from that topic. Sometimes students have trouble inserting or avoiding inserting their own opinion into things that they do have a strong opinion about. So just always remember your points have to be supported with evidence, not you. So use the author's voice to support your explanation or argument, depending on what you're doing. And be clear where the information is originating from. So according to something, according to Jones, the last name of the author. Do not repeat your title over and over and over just to get a word count. I will definitely take off for that. So please use your judgment. You shouldn't really be mentioning those articles at all in the synthesis section, unless you just want to mention it once, which I may have asked you to do it once, but you cannot do it again. So you'll want to use the last name of the authors. So down here, what other things can you do to succeed? Reread the synthesis chapters. You'll have some videos available to you, part 1 and part 2. Those are lectures from a different class, but they're still very valid, and they're very good in terms of helping you sort of connect what is synthesis. So be very clear in who said it, and this is just a reminder of that. So I'm going to go back over here and go ahead and open up our rubric. Take a few minutes to look through that. Hang on just a second. Makes me go down here. Okay. So here's the actual rubric that I'm going to use to grade. It gives you the due date and the time to turn it in, which, remember, I've had several people email me about my paper's late, but I turned it in at 11:58 or 9. Well, first of all, don't wait that long in case you have a technical issue. But secondly, I can subtract an hour. So that's how I do it. A lot of teachers say it's due at 10:59, but hey, we all have lives, and I go ahead and do the end of the day. So 11:59 Central Standard Time. Okay, so if you're in Eastern Time, it's still 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Blackboard sometimes doesn't record the time right. So I look at your timestamp and make sure that it's the right time. So you'll always go by Central. So note that 10% is deducted if you do not fully participate in peer review. That's made clear in the syllabus and on the other paper. So please keep that in mind as you're doing this. You do want to fully participate. That means uploading your paper. That means peer reviewing another student's paper and returning that on time, and also doing the other parts on time, like uploading your paper on time. So it does have to be fully done. And this next paper, I will not give credit for that unless you have uploaded your full draft. Students can't really do good peer reviews for you and help you write a better paper if you don't have all the material there. So notice that your paper that you write will be uploaded in .doc or .docx, which is a Word format, and that's it. So then your actual articles, though, will be uploaded in .pdf, which is usually the way that most of those papers come. So if you do full text on the database, you're going to find PDF. It is 1,000 to 1,200 words. You're going to have to be very concise. Anything below 700 is an automatic failure. And remember, we don't count the cover sheet. In MLA, we wouldn't cover any of that information with your name. That doesn't count, your name, the date, all of that. The title doesn't count. The headers don't count. Only your text that you are writing counts. So please make sure that you are measuring that appropriately. Now this can be explanatory or argumentative, and at first I only did explanatory on these, but some students asked if they could use it for argumentative because it actually helps you later on. We haven't covered that section, but there is a book, there's a chapter called Explanatory Synthesis and Argument Synthesis that you can read in the book to help you understand some of those concepts. And I do have, of course, some lecture material on synthesis, so hopefully that will help as well. Any paper turned in without the student having fully participated, again, it's on this too, will be penalized. And there's the 15 because this is 150 points. I want to make sure you understand some of the criteria in the introduction. Your descriptive title should not just be synthesis. The synthesis, the thesis information, I've even put the format on here of how that should be formulated, and it does need to be formulated this way, so please read that clearly. Please read that so it's clear to you. The clear reason for discussing the topic, that means the significance. Why is this important in the discussion of your topic? It has to have importance for you to choose this, not just for me. And please avoid announcements. This I will talk about this this article, you know, those are called announcements, and those are really lower level writing and have no place in any of the essays in this class. Really, you should have learned that in 100. I hope that you did. So, how to take those out. If you need extra information, there's a English 100 review thing in our course. If you want to go through that, you can read some of the or listen to the videos there and learn some more. Remember, this is third person only. Has to be a well-developed paragraph. The summaries are one paragraph per article, so each article you use has to have a paragraph. So you can see if you use four summaries, you're probably going to go over the word limit and have a penalty for that. So the language used is objective. That means no opinions, folks, none at all. This is all about summarizing the points and say according to the author. The author points out the first point that's discussed in the article, things like that. The mini critique, this tells you what to put in here, and it also, if you go back to that preliminary writing for your final topic, which was done, let's see, it was due on 9/16, so you can go back and look at that. And it has some questions to help you with that. The purpose of that assignment was to help you with your critique. So you should know critique at this point and be able to use it in the synthesis essay. So the synthesis section tells you, remind us of the original thesis. That can be verbatim. You have to talk about that to start your section. Discuss the elements and points that you created to support your own thesis. Compare relevant common points between and among sources. Among means there's more than two sources. That's why that's there. You know, contrast points. And so you want to balance this discussion out is really what that's telling you. Is it clear? It's clear where the points came from. That's according to Jones, the author. Or the author discusses. So you can also use the in-text citations to make clear that it's coming from a certain source. Each paragraph has to contain topic sentences. They have to be well developed. You have to avoid any first-person discussions in this as well. So please read through this very, very carefully to make sure that you are doing what you need to do. I do not allow block quotes. None. So if you find a long quote you're going to use, you just can't. So I generally don't even, you know, most of this should be in your own words. So you'll state your point, then support it with the information from your peer-reviewed journal articles. But those can be paraphrased quite easily. So please keep that in mind. Make sure your organization is appropriate for the topic, and all of these sections should be done in order. So conclusion, I'm going to let you read that on your own. One of the big things is it provides a meaningful ending and closure to it. You could say things like, there's more research needed and things like that. The formatting and sources is kind of the same as always, and grammar and punctuation is too, so you can cover those so that I can in the video. And here's the good rule. 10% only of quotes. That's a good rule to live by. So I hope that this helped. Thank you very much.